From the frozen fjords of Scandinavia came warriors, explorers, and kings who reshaped Europe. The Vikings, feared as raiders but remembered as much more.
Life in Scandinavia forged a seafaring culture unlike any other. Their longships became symbols of power and freedom. These vessels could navigate both open seas and shallow rivers, opening pathways to conquest and discovery across Europe.
For the people of coastal Europe, the end of the 8th century brought a new and terrifying chapter. From the mists of the North Sea, they came without warning. The first whispers of their arrival were not words, but the chilling sound of a war horn carried on the wind, a prelude to chaos. Viking raids struck terror across the fractured kingdoms of England and the sprawling coasts of the Carolingian Empire. In the year 793, the holy island of Lindisfarne, a beacon of Christian learning in Northumbria, was shattered. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle recorded the event with horror, speaking of fiery dragons flying across the sky and a great famine, followed by the harrying of heathen men. To the Vikings, this sacred place was simply an undefended treasure chest. They saw no sacrilege in plundering its golden crosses, silver chalices, and precious jeweled bookbindings. They slaughtered the monks who stood in their way and dragged others into captivity. The scholar Alcuin of York lamented, "Never before has such a terror appeared in Britain as we have now suffered from a pagan race." This brutal efficiency was made possible by a masterpiece of naval engineering, the longship. Sleek, fast, and with a shallow draft, these vessels could strike not only coastlines, but navigate far upriver, appearing deep within a kingdom's heartland, where no attack was expected. Coastal villages and inland towns alike lived in constant fear of the sight of their dragon-prowed ships materializing from the morning mist. The Vikings' strategy was one of lightning speed. They would land, overwhelm any local defense, seize everything of value, from livestock and grain to people, and then vanish back to sea before a larger force could be mustered against them. Monasteries, rich and undefended, were prime targets. But soon, no settlement was safe. The raids spread like wildfire. They sacked Dublin, besieged Paris, and even ventured as far as Muslim Spain and the Mediterranean. Over time, the nature of these raids evolved. Small opportunistic bands gave way to vast fleets and formidable armies, like the Great Heathen Army that landed in England in 865. This was no longer a simple smash-and-grab operation. It was an invasion force, intent on conquest and settlement. The destruction they left behind became the stuff of dark legend. The image of the blood-soaked, axe-wielding barbarian was forged in the fires of burning churches and the accounts of their terrified victims. They were seen as a divine punishment, a scourge sent from God. The very word Viking became synonymous with piracy, slaughter, and pagan fury. They left behind a legacy of fear that would echo through the centuries, forever shaping Europe's perception of the Norse people. Yet this wave of violence was not the whole story. It was a catalyst. The paths carved by these raiders would soon become highways for trade, exploration, and settlement. The wealth flowing back to Scandinavia would transform their society, funding new expeditions and fueling greater ambitions. The age of the Viking raid was brutal and destructive, but it was only the beginning of their extraordinary impact on the world.
While the sagas sing of axe and sword, another equally profound story of the Viking Age is etched in silver coins and amber beads. The image of the bloodthirsty raider is only half the picture. Vikings were merchants and settlers as much as they were warriors, driven by a powerful engine of commerce and an insatiable curiosity for the world beyond their shores. From the frozen north, they brought treasures that were the envy of Europe and the East, dense furs of fox and bear, precious walrus ivory known as white gold, and the fossilized resin amber, called the tears of the gods. In return, they sought the riches of the south and east, shimmering silks from the Orient, intricate glassware from the Rhineland, fine pottery, and above all, silver. This lust for silver, not just plunder, fueled their expansion. Great trading towns like Hedeby in modern-day Germany and Birka in Sweden swelled with life, becoming vibrant, cosmopolitan hubs. They were true crossroads of cultures, where Norse, Saxon, Slav, and Arab merchants haggled in a dozen tongues, and goods from half the world changed hands. Their ambition knew no borders. To the east, they forged a perilous path that would connect Scandinavia to the heart of the Islamic world. The Varangians, as they were known in the east, navigated the great rivers of what is now Russia and Ukraine, the Dnieper and the Volga, dragging their longships overland between waterways. Their trading network stretched to the golden city of Constantinople, which they called Miklagard, the Great City. Here they traded and sometimes served as elite mercenaries in the Byzantine Emperor's personal Varangian Guard, feared and respected for their loyalty and ferocity. Others pushed even further, their dragon prows touching the shores of the Caspian Sea, establishing direct trade with the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad, connecting distant worlds in a global network of exchange. But their gaze was not only fixed eastward. To the west lay the vast, unforgiving expanse of the North Atlantic, a sea of storms, fog, and ice. It was a challenge they met not with armies, but with families, livestock, and the dream of a new home. First, they settled Iceland, a land of fire and ice. In a remarkable feat of organized colonization, thousands of Norse settlers crossed the treacherous seas to build a new society from scratch. Here, far from the reach of kings, they established the Althing, one of the world's oldest parliaments, a testament to their sophisticated social structure and desire for law and order. From Iceland, the most daring pushed further still. Led by the exiled chieftain Eric the Red, they discovered a vast island of stark, icy beauty. He shrewdly named it Greenland to attract settlers. They established settlements in the most unlikely places, clinging to the fjords of the southwestern coast. Life here was a constant struggle against the elements. They farmed thin soil and relied on hunting seals and walruses for survival, their ivory becoming a precious commodity in Europe. It was an outpost at the very edge of the known world, and from this remote outpost, the final incredible leap was made. Around the year 1000, Eric's own son, Leif Erikson, set sail into the unknown. He made landfall on a coast of forests, rivers teeming with salmon and wild grapes, a place he named Vinland. They had achieved the impossible, discovering North America nearly 5 centuries before Columbus. They attempted to build a settlement, a small foothold in this vast new world, but this was not an empty land. Encounters with the native peoples, whom they called Skraelings, were often violent. After only a few years, the small colony was abandoned. These expeditions, from the markets of Baghdad to the shores of Vinland, proved their courage extended far beyond conquest. They were pioneers and architects of a network that spanned the globe, forever changing the map of the world.
To understand the Viking, one must first step inside the Longhouse, the beating heart of their world. Far from being a society of lone wolves, Viking life was deeply communal, built upon the bedrock of the extended family, the clan, and an unyielding code of personal honor. Daily life was a tapestry woven with 3 essential threads: family, honor, and the ever-present gods. The clan, was the ultimate safety net and the source of one's identity. It was a collective to which they owed their highest loyalty. Within this structure, honor, was a person's most valuable currency. It was a measure of their worth, built on courage, generosity, keeping one's word, and avenging insult or injury to one's kin. A person without honor was an outcast, a ghost in their own community. This intricate social fabric was not merely a human construct, it was believed to be a reflection of the divine order, a world watched over by a pantheon of powerful and often unpredictable gods. Odin, Thor, and Loki dominated their mythology, each representing fundamental aspects of the Viking cosmos. Odin, the All-Father, was the relentless seeker of knowledge, who sacrificed his own eye for a drink from the well of wisdom. He was the god of war, poetry, and death, a complex and brooding figure who presided over Valhalla, his hall of slain warriors. His ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory, flew across the worlds, bringing him news of all that transpired. Then there was Thor, the thunderous champion of mankind. Wielding his mighty hammer Mjolnir, he was the embodiment of strength, courage, and order, a tireless defender of Midgard against the chaotic forces of the giants. His popularity among common farmers and warriors was immense. His symbol was a protective ward against evil, and weaving through their tales was Loki, the trickster. A giant by birth but a blood brother to Odin, Loki was the agent of chaos, a silver-tongued shapeshifter whose cleverness and malice would both save and ultimately doom the gods. Before these tales were written down, they lived in the breath of the skalds, the poet-historians of the Viking Age. In the flickering firelight of the great halls, they recited epic sagas of heroes and gods, preserving history and culture through the power of oral tradition. But the Vikings also left a more permanent record, stories carved in stone that survive to this day. These runestones were not just alphabetic markers, they were monuments, public declarations of inheritance, memorials to the fallen, and testaments to incredible journeys, ensuring a person's deeds and their name would echo into eternity. In this formidable society, women were not relegated to the shadows. They held positions of power and respect, wielding significant authority. The lady of the estate, was master of the household. She held the keys to the food stores and the treasury, managed the farm, and ran the entire domestic operation, especially when the men were away raiding or trading. Viking law granted women the right to inherit property, request a divorce, and reclaim their dowry. And while their primary domain was the home, the sagas and archaeological finds hint at another, more legendary role. The Shield Maiden, a woman who took up arms and fought alongside men, remains a powerful, if debated, figure. Whether a widespread reality or a potent ideal, she represents the fierce independence and spirit that defined Viking women. Their beliefs shaped every aspect of Viking life and death. They saw the universe as governed by, or fate, a thread spun for each person at birth, yet they did not believe in passive acceptance. Courage in the face of one's fate was the ultimate virtue. Through rituals like a sacrifice to the gods, they sought to align themselves with cosmic forces, hoping for fertile lands and victory in battle. This worldview extended Portek into a complex vision of the afterlife. For a warrior who died bravely in combat, the ultimate prize was Valhalla, where they would feast and fight until called upon for Ragnarok, the final battle. Their beliefs provided meaning in a harsh world, a spiritual framework that guided their hands in both creation and destruction, defining their journey from the cradle to the glorious or solemn grave.
Figures like Ragnar Lothbrok became legends that inspired generations. Harald Fairhair united the Norwegian kingdoms under one crown. Viking influence reshaped England and established Normandy in France. From raiders to rulers, they transformed from destroyers into builders of kingdoms.
Christianization began to change Viking culture forever. European kingdoms grew stronger and more organized. The Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066 marked the close of the Viking era. An age of adventure and conquest had come to an end.
The Vikings were more than raiders. They were traders, explorers, and kings whose legacy still shapes the world today. Subscribe now for more epic history documentaries. Next, the Ottoman Empire.